The very name evokes a sense of mystery, of adventure, of a land teeming with life in all its raw beauty and untamed wilderness. It's the birthplace of humanity, the cradle of civilization. We imagine rolling savannas, majestic lions bathed in the golden glow of sunset, and vibrant cultures pulsing with the rhythm of ancient drums. Yet this image, as captivating as it is, often overshadows a more complex reality, a reality where poverty and hardship cast a long shadow over the continent's potential. We hear about Africa's vast natural resources, diamonds, gold, oil, a treasure trove that could rival any nation's wealth. We see the breathtaking landscapes, the fertile lands, the potential for growth and prosperity. But then, we are confronted with the stark statistics, the images of poverty, disease, and conflict. It's a jarring juxtaposition that begs the question, why is Africa still so poor? A land of contradictions. The narrative often presented is one of despair, of a continent perpetually trapped in a cycle of poverty. We are bombarded with images of starving children, war-torn villages, and corrupt dictators. While these issues are undeniably real and require urgent attention, they represent only fragments of a much larger and more nuanced story. Africa is a continent of immense diversity, a tapestry woven from 54 unique countries, each with its own distinct history, culture, and challenges. To paint it with a single brushstroke of poverty is not only inaccurate, but also does a disservice to the resilience, ingenuity, and spirit of its people. Beyond a single story, it's time to move beyond the simplistic narrative of Africa is poor and delve deeper into the multifaceted realities that shape the continent's present. We must acknowledge the historical injustices, the systemic issues, and the external factors that have contributed to its current state. This is not about absolving anyone of responsibility or denying the very real struggles faced by millions. It is about understanding the complexities, the nuances, and the interconnectedness of the issues at play. It is about moving beyond the single story and engaging in a more honest and productive conversation. This video aims to challenge the prevailing narrative and embark on a journey of exploration. We will examine the historical, economic, political, and social factors that have contributed to Africa's current state. We will delve into the legacies of colonialism, the challenges of globalization, and the impact of internal conflicts. But most importantly, we will also highlight the stories of hope, resilience, and progress emerging from the continent. We will explore the innovative solutions, the entrepreneurial spirit, and the unwavering determination of a people striving for a brighter future. Because Africa's story is not just about poverty, it is a story of resilience, of hope, and of the indomitable human spirit. Scars of empire. From every indication, the colonialism spirit still thrives in most parts of Africa.
The colonization of Africa was not about civilizing the continent as often portrayed in colonial propaganda. It was a brutal system of exploitation designed to extract wealth and resources for the benefit of the colonizers. African land was seized, natural resources were plundered, and labor was brutally exploited. From the diamond mines of South Africa to the rubber plantations of the Congo, the story was the same: immense wealth extracted from Africa, enriching European powers while leaving behind a legacy of poverty, underdevelopment, and social disruption. This systematic plunder stripped Africa of its resources, disrupted its traditional economies, and created a system of dependency that continues to cast a long shadow on the continent today. The impact of colonialism extended far beyond the immediate period of European rule. The systems of governance, education, and infrastructure put in place during this era were designed to serve the interests of the colonizers, not to empower the colonized. Education systems, where they existed, were often geared towards producing a workforce subservient to colonial needs, neglecting the development of critical thinking and indigenous knowledge systems. This deliberate underinvestment in education and infrastructure created a lasting legacy of inequality and hampered Africa's ability to develop its human capital, a crucial ingredient for any nation's progress. The seeds of underdevelopment sown during this era continue to bear bitter fruit even today. While many African nations gained political independence in the mid-20th century, the struggle for true liberation was far from over. The economic and political structures inherited from colonial powers often perpetuated the existing power imbalances, paving the way for what became known as neocolonialism. Neocolonialism, in essence, is the continuation of colonial exploitation through economic and political control, even after formal political independence has been achieved. This control often manifests in unfair trade agreements, foreign debt burdens, and the backing of authoritarian regimes that serve the interests of external powers over their own people. Broken promises, shattered dreams, the unfulfilled potential. The period following independence held so much promise for Africa. The dream of self-determination, of charting their own course, fueled the aspirations of a continent yearning for a brighter future. However, many African nations found themselves navigating a complex and often hostile global landscape. The Cold War, with its proxy conflicts and ideological battles, further destabilized the continent as superpowers vied for influence and control. Internal conflicts, often fueled by ethnic divisions exploited during colonial rule, erupted, further hindering development and causing immense human suffering. The promise of independence, for many, remained tragically unfulfilled. The weight of history, a barrier to progress. It's tempting to view Africa's current state solely through the lens of its colonial past. While the impact of colonialism is undeniable, to attribute all of Africa's challenges to this single factor would be a simplistic and incomplete analysis. Africa, like any other continent, has its own internal dynamics, its own successes and failures. To deny agency to Africans or to overlook the progress made since independence would be a disservice to the resilience and determination of its people. Beyond the colonial lens, reclaiming the narrative. However, acknowledging the enduring legacy of colonialism is not about dwelling in the past or assigning blame. It's about understanding the root causes of present-day inequalities and addressing the systemic issues that continue to hinder Africa's progress. It's about reclaiming the narrative, recognizing the agency of Africans in shaping their own destiny and moving beyond the simplistic narrative of a continent forever trapped in a cycle of poverty and despair. It's about recognizing that the story of Africa is not just a story of colonialism, but a story of resilience, of innovation, and of the enduring spirit of a people determined to forge a brighter future.
Beyond the bootstraps, economic realities, and the struggle for prosperity.
Africa, the resource curse, paradox of plenty. You'd think a continent bursting with diamonds, gold, oil, and enough minerals to build a spaceship to Mars would be rolling in dough. You'd be wrong. Welcome to the paradox of plenty, where abundance of natural resources often translates to, well, not much for the people who actually live there. This resource curse, as it's called, often leads to corruption, conflict, and a dangerous dependence on volatile commodity prices. Instead of lifting nations out of poverty, it can trap them in a boom and bust cycle, vulnerable to global market whims.
The infrastructure gap, a continent adrift. Imagine trying to run a business without reliable electricity, decent roads, or a way to get your goods to market. That's the daily reality for many entrepreneurs across Africa. The lack of basic infrastructure, roads, railways, ports, power grids is like trying to win a marathon with your shoelaces tied together. It stifles growth, discourages investment, and makes it incredibly difficult for businesses to thrive. It's not just about fancy bridges and high-speed trains, it's about connecting people to opportunities, markets, and each other.
Trapped in a cycle of debt loans, aid, and dependency. The image of Africa as a continent perpetually dependent on aid is one that's been burned into our collective consciousness. While well-intentioned, decades of aid have often created a system of dependency, with strings attached that haven't always benefited those they were meant to help. Add to that the burden of crippling foreign debt, and you have a situation where countries are forced to prioritize debt repayment over investing in their own people. It's like trying to save for a house while paying off a loan shark. Every step forward feels like 2 steps back. Unfair trade practices, a skewed playing field. Imagine playing a game of basketball where the other team gets to double dribble, travel, and basically rewrite the rules whenever they feel like it. That's what unfair trade practices feel like for many African nations. Subsidies for farmers in developed countries, for example, can flood markets with artificially cheap products, undercutting local farmers and making it impossible for them to compete. It's not about charity. It's about creating a level playing field where African businesses and farmers have a fair shot at success. Lack of diversification. Putting all eggs in one basket. Remember the resource curse? It's often made worse by a lack of economic diversification. When a country relies heavily on exporting just a handful of raw materials, it becomes incredibly vulnerable to price fluctuations and global demand. It's like investing your life savings in one volatile stock-risky business. Diversifying economies, investing in manufacturing, technology, and value-added industries is crucial for long-term stability and growth. The brain drain exodus of talent. Imagine training a brilliant doctor, engineer, or entrepreneur only to see them leave for opportunities abroad. That's the challenge of brain drain, where skilled professionals, often frustrated by lack of opportunities at home, seek greener pastures elsewhere. It's a loss not just of skilled individuals, but of potential, innovation, and leadership. Creating an environment where talent is nurtured, rewarded, and given the chance to thrive is critical for Africa's future.
The seeds of change, green shoots of progress. It's easy to get bogged down in the challenges, but amidst the struggles, there are also incredible stories of resilience, innovation, and hope emerging from the continent. From tech hubs in Lagos and Nairobi to mobile money revolutionizing finance, Africans are finding creative solutions to their unique challenges. The entrepreneurial spirit is alive and well, and with the right support, investment, and a commitment to good governance, Africa has the potential to write its own narrative of prosperity. It's time to move beyond the tired tropes and recognize the agency, the ingenuity, and the unwavering spirit of a continent on the rise. The politics of poverty, governance, instability, and the quest for a just system.
The price of instability, a continent held hostage. Imagine trying to build a house in the middle of a hurricane. That's what it's like trying to build a stable, prosperous nation in the midst of constant political turmoil. From coups to civil wars, rigged elections to violent power struggles, the sad reality is that many African nations have been held hostage by instability. This instability creates uncertainty, scares away investment, disrupts essential services, and makes it nearly impossible for long-term development to take root. It's like trying to run a marathon on a constantly shifting tectonic plate, exhausting, frustrating, and ultimately self-defeating. The cancer of corruption eroding trust, stealing futures. Imagine a doctor who steals medicine meant for the sick and sells it on the black market. That's what corruption does to a nation. It's a cancer that eats away at the very fabric of society, eroding trust, undermining institutions, and stealing resources that should be used to build schools, hospitals, and a brighter future for all. From petty bribery to grand-scale looting of public coffers, corruption disproportionately hurts the poorest and most vulnerable, perpetuating a vicious cycle of poverty and inequality. The big man syndrome, power and patronage over progress. Imagine a leader who's more interested in building lavish palaces for themselves than schools for their people. Sadly, this big man syndrome, characterized by a thirst for absolute power, a culture of impunity, and a system of patronage where loyalty trumps merit, has plagued many African nations. It's a system where personal gain trumps the common good, where dissenting voices are silenced, and where the potential of a nation is sacrificed at the altar of ego and greed. Imagine a wound that's never allowed to heal properly, constantly reopened and infected. That's the legacy of conflict in many parts of Africa. Wars and violence not only claim countless lives and displace millions, but they also leave deep scars on the social fabric, breeding mistrust, hindering reconciliation, and creating fertile ground for future conflicts. The human cost is immeasurable, and the long-term impact on development is devastating. Breaking this cycle of violence and investing in peace building, trauma healing, and reconciliation is crucial for lasting stability and progress.
Remember those arbitrary borders drawn up during the scramble for Africa? Turns out they didn't just carve up land, they also divided communities, inflamed ethnic tensions, and created artificial rivalries that continue to haunt many nations today. This divide and rule tactic, employed by colonial powers to maintain control, has left behind a legacy of mistrust and conflict that makes it difficult to build cohesive, unified nations.
It's easy to get disheartened by the stories of corruption and instability, but amidst the challenges, there are also glimmers of hope. Across the continent, courageous individuals and movements are rising up, demanding accountability, transparency, and good governance. From citizen-led initiatives monitoring elections to investigative journalists exposing corruption, the fight for a more just and equitable system is gaining momentum. These are the stories that deserve attention, support, and amplification. Empowering the people, the path to lasting change. Ultimately, the path to lasting change in Africa lies in empowering its people. This means investing in education, healthcare, and creating opportunities for economic empowerment. It means promoting gender equality, ensuring access to justice, and upholding the rule of law. It means creating a system where every citizen has a voice, where leaders are accountable to the people they serve, and where the vast potential of this continent can finally be unleashed. Africa's future doesn't rest on the shoulders of saviors, but on the collective efforts of its people, working together to build a brighter tomorrow.
Beyond the balance sheet social realities and the power of human potential.
The human capital conundrum: investing in people, investing in progress. Think of a country like a high-performance sports team. You need talent, sure, but you also need training, coaching, and support to reach your full potential. That's where investing in human capital comes in. It's not just about having a large population, it's about nurturing the skills, health, and well-being of every citizen. It's about creating an environment where people can thrive, innovate, and contribute to their communities. Because ultimately, a nation's greatest asset isn't its mineral wealth or its GDP, it's the ingenuity, creativity, and resilience of its people.
The Youth Bulge opportunity or time bomb. Africa has the youngest population in the world, a demographic dividend that could be a source of immense potential or a recipe for social unrest. If equipped with the right skills, education, and opportunities, this generation of young people could transform the continent. However, without access to jobs, education, and a stake in their societies, this youth bulge could become a source of frustration and instability. Investing in youth empowerment, entrepreneurship, and creating pathways for meaningful participation in society is crucial for harnessing the potential of this generation. Empowering women, unlocking Africa's true potential. Imagine a society where half of its population is denied equal opportunities, where girls are forced into early marriage instead of going to school, and where women are excluded from decision-making processes. That's not just unjust, it's economically unsustainable. Empowering women through education, access to healthcare, economic opportunities, and legal protections is not just the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do. When women thrive, entire societies benefit. It's about unlocking the full potential of half the population and creating a more just, equitable, and prosperous future for all. The power of culture harnessing tradition for transformation. Africa's rich cultural heritage, its music, art, storytelling traditions, and deep sense of community is often overlooked in discussions about development. But culture is not a static relic of the past. It's a dynamic force that can drive social change, promote innovation, and foster a sense of shared identity and purpose. From promoting sustainable practices rooted in traditional knowledge systems to using art and music to raise awareness about social issues, harnessing the power of culture is essential for building a more just, equitable, and sustainable future for Africa. It's about recognizing that development is not just about economic indicators. It's about creating societies that are both prosperous and culturally vibrant.
Conclusion, a continent on the rise, reframing the narrative, embracing the possibilities. Connecting the dots, a tapestry of challenges and opportunities. We've journeyed through the complex layers of history, economics, politics, and social realities that shape the African continent. We've confronted the uncomfortable truths of colonialism's enduring legacy, the crippling impact of corruption and instability, and the systemic barriers that continue to hinder progress. We've seen how the resource curse, unfair trade practices, and a lack of investment in human capital have created a cycle of poverty that's proven difficult to break. But we've also witnessed the indomitable spirit of the African people, their resilience in the face of adversity, their creativity in finding innovative solutions to unique challenges. We've seen how investing in education, healthcare, and good governance can empower communities and unlock the continent's vast potential. We've learned that Africa's story is not a monolith of despair, but a rich tapestry woven with threads of struggle, resilience, innovation, and hope. Beyond aid and intervention, writing a new narrative of progress. The narrative of Africa as a continent perpetually in need of saving, a recipient of pity and charity, is outdated, inaccurate, and frankly, insulting. While well-intentioned, decades of aid and intervention have often created a system of dependency, perpetuating the very power imbalances they sought to address. It's time to move beyond the simplistic narratives, the one-size-fits-all solutions, and the savior complex. Africa doesn't need saviors, it needs partners. Partners who approach the continent with respect, who listen to the voices of its people, and who work collaboratively to create sustainable solutions. It's about investing in locally driven initiatives, supporting African entrepreneurs and innovators, and creating a level playing field where African businesses can thrive. A call to action. Investing in Africa's future. Investing in our common humanity. The challenges facing Africa are complex and interconnected, but they are not insurmountable. The solutions lie not in handouts or quick fixes, but in long-term sustainable investments in human capital, in good governance, and in creating an enabling environment for economic growth and social progress. This is not just about charity, it's about recognizing that our destinies are intertwined. Investing in Africa's future is not just the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do. When Africa thrives, the world thrives. It's about creating a more just, equitable, and sustainable future for all, recognizing that we are all part of one global family, sharing this planet and its resources. A continent on the rise, reframing the narrative, embracing the possibilities. The narrative of Africa is changing. A new generation of leaders, entrepreneurs, and activists is emerging, challenging the status quo, demanding accountability, and driving innovation. From the bustling tech hubs of Lagos and Nairobi to the agricultural innovations transforming rural communities, Africa is brimming with potential. It's time to embrace this new narrative, to amplify the voices of hope and progress, and to support the movements working to create a more just and equitable future for all Africans. The journey ahead will be challenging, no doubt, but the spirit of the African people, their resilience, their creativity, and their unwavering belief in a brighter tomorrow gives us reason to be optimistic. The time for Africa is now. The time to invest in its future is now. The time to rewrite the narrative